by the trash can. It only took me like 4 years to figure that out. I never said I was smart. Okay, so still getting over being puny. Still look like crap. Nothing's changed there. But I do have things I need to get done. And so I thought I'd come on today and do this vlog for a few minutes. I don't know how long I'm going to work on this. We'll see how I feel. But it's finally dried. And I wove this the other day. And I'm trying to get it done because it's one I'm going to have to mail, which is why it's so small. So let me give you a back history. If you've never been to my channel before, hi, welcome. I don't know what brought you here. You may want to throw a question mark out into the ether, but glad to have you. My name's Liz. I live in Appalachia. I'm a retired parole officer and counselor. I have a neuromuscular disorder that is attacking most of my body and organs. So my health comes and goes, but I still want to do stuff and feel useful. Hey, Ashley. And the other day, I got one of those messages that makes you terribly happy. So I got contacted actually by somebody that I used to supervise. Matter of fact, I may have done a warrant and sent him back to prison at one point. It's all a blur now because, you know, that was eons ago. If you talk to me now, that was eons ago. But I know that we had a very important talk about, you know, when you get out, straighten up, do something that's going to improve yourself, and, you know, keep going forward, don't go backwards. Because just, you know, I have a pretty good gut feeling about people after working with felons for so long, and this guy struggled to be bad. And if he ever watches this, it's nothing I've not said to your face. He was genuinely, at heart, a good person, and he struggled really hard to be bad. That's why he was such a poor felon. And that's a compliment. That's a compliment. So just, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But I knew that he would be so much more happy and successful on a positive path. And, you know, a lot of what he was struggling with was just the people around him, and, you know, having a good support group. You know, because old habits die hard, and especially if you don't change your support group and your peer group, you know, it's just really hard to stamp out that flame. When he got out of prison this time, he actually finished some education. He got into a truck driving school, and he got hired. He stayed employed. He's being an uncle to his nephews, and he relocated to where he had a better support group. And positive things. He wanted to tell me about all these positive things and contact me. And along the way, I found out that I, in my own domestic life now, make dream catchers. And asked me if I would make him one. Absolutely. Absolutely. I actually enjoy making them for people that have really changed their life. So yeah, absolutely. I'm here for that. So I dried the frame. It's one that I have to mail, so it has to be smaller than other stuff. So it's one that I have to mail, so it has to be a smaller one. Normally I make it about 3 times as big, but I have to mail it. But I did wrap multiple. When I harvested the willow, I wrapped multiple vines, so it would have more of a rustic appearance to it. So I wrapped multiple vines. And I went ahead and wove it the other day. But y'all know we still got crap we got to do. And y'all know that the bane of my existence are feather drops. Feather dangles, feather drops, any kind of drop. They're necessary, but Lord, I hate them. Mostly because it's a fine motor skill that I struggle with these days. So that's why I don't enjoy it. But it has to be done, and it, you know, makes my physical therapist really happy. So I'm going to work on some of that today. I'm digging in my little bag of goodies to find some stuff to put on some drops. And these kind of grow as I start to work on them. I really have no plan. It just kind of manifests as I start working. So that's what we do. So what I have are some drilled antler points and just antler rounds. And I have some turkey feathers, and I have some leather, and I have some faux sinew because I don't want to chew the real sinew. Well, howdy, Louisiana's in the house. I don't like to chew the real sinew, so I get the faux sinew. And honestly, do you want a craft that I've chewed half of it? No, nobody does. So I'm using the faux sinew on this. And nobody's chickens or fowl farms are currently molting enough to let me buy local, so I have gotten some other feathers. I ran out of my pheasant feathers. If y'all remember the other day I had a pheasant plucking day. Ran out of those. Use those. That little pheasant was a wealth of feathers. He was roadkill. May he rest in peace. But probably about 3 times a year I do have to just buy flipping feathers. It's not my favorite thing. But, you know, if I could snap my fingers and make chickens mold, I'd be a happy person. But I can't. So let's see. I'm going to have to go back to the Amish settlement and get more leather. Because I am getting short on leather. And I like to, when I do my bigger crafts, I like to have the handmade Amish leather. So we've got everybody from all over the world around here. Well, howdy. Welcome to my little corner of Appalachia. I'm sitting on the other side of the kitchen table today because I want to be close to the trash can so they don't have to clean up 3 messes. You know, it only took me like 4 years to figure that one out. So, unfortunately, my trash can's very full. So, we are going to make feather drops today. How are you doing? Did anybody watch Sabrina's last live with Boomathon where they started the Naughty Ninja podcast? I have had the giggles. I've had the giggles. It's been very nice. That was fun. If y'all don't know, that is Miss Sabrina Wallace, who likes to break the internet quite often. She's a really good friend, and she's got a lot of information that is really handy if anybody's like in that seek and ye shall find space in life. Go for it. I'm going to use this faux sinew. It is still really tacky, so it's honestly, it's thinner than real sinew, but it still leaves your hands feeling really tacky like sinew does. So what I'm going to do is probably do a couple of feather dangles, and I may put some antlers on a couple. We'll see what hits me when I'm doing this. So if you've never seen me do this, I just do a gathering knot. We double over one side, then you wrap it back through, pull it through, and tighten it. I will, because this one is going to be in the mail and moving, I will secure everything with a little drop of glue. But, you know, on a lot of my stuff, I really don't. I kind of tight with the leather stuff, and you really won't see how I've joined it. But when it's going to get shipped and stuff, I normally put a drop of glue on it. So we have my glue gun going, and it smells ferocious. It is working overkill today. I don't know why, but so you do a gathering knot. You just pull both ends, and it buries the knot underneath the wrap. And then I just push my cording together to make it a little bit prettier. And then I just clip it off. And then I'll trim the feathers at the top, but what you end up with is just a wrap. So let me put a little bit of glue. Since this is going in the mail and going to be traveling, I will put glue on this one because I do not like surprises. But he does not live close enough anymore for me to transport, and so I'm going to be sending this one to him. But it's an honor, like when somebody has really revamped their entire existence and they ask for one of my native arts. It's really an honor to do it for them because that's somebody that's on a better and new path, and they're happy to share that with me, and I'm happy to, you know, be a cheerleader at that point. Because when you work in a field, you know, it's where you see a lot of people constantly fail. It's so nice to see people actually succeed. And unfortunately, a lot of people that work in that field get so used to the failures that they forget that what they're working for are the successes, and they get kind of biased and hateful. And it's like they forget to care about the people that are on their caseloads. And that is, I didn't really enjoy working with those officers, and I tried to always be a positive person. Now, sometimes, listen, sometimes it was a trial because sometimes it's just people don't want you to be positive. They just want to push your buttons. But I stayed pretty positive, and you know, I played ignorant a lot. I played stupid a lot to let people think they got away with stuff. So, because I would get more information that way. But when they come back and they've been successful, and they're like, I remember what you said on this day, or I remember the talk we had. That means a lot to me. That means an awful lot to me. So I'm always super happy when people bounce back and, you know, they remember a moment of effort, because sadly in this world, a lot of people no longer give others effort. I'm going to wedge this on here with a drop of glue, and I'm going to put this column bead down in here. And that will be our central drop. So that would be the main middle drop. And I really don't know why I hate making feather drops so much. A lot of it's just because my hands don't always do what I tell them to do anymore due to this disorder. And it can be a little bit of a pain in the butt to make these. So today I seem to be doing a little bit better. Maybe it's where I'm coming out of the sickness and I'm feeling better. Oh, I'll tell Dave Hattie. He is actually outside in the fur shed. You know, he tans everybody else's stuff that they bring to him before he tans his own. And I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure he has actually gotten everybody else's fur out and he's finally working on his bear. Because he always does his own stuff last, because he likes to get everybody else's fur done. So he's trying to tan his bear that he got last year and get that done, because, you know, everything's fixing to start again, hunting seasons and then trapping season, and then it'll be mass chaos again. He's trying to get everything done. Bless his heart. And I'm going to do just some little time dangles. I may put a feather in on this one. Yeah, let's put a feather in on it. I don't know if I want to put a feather on that one or not. It doesn't feel right. So let's try something else for a moment. And I know that I have saved a piece of bobcat fur that I'm going to be using as the fur on this one. And I've got a skull that's also going to be going on this one. I was going to have to pilfer and see. I know that he specifically wanted a skull. And that's where it comes in handy having a trapper tanner for a husband. So these little antler points, these are actually in the real world quite expensive because they're a pain in the butt to make because you have to have a bandsaw. I don't use bandsaws anymore because I have a thing like MS and oopsies would be traumatic. So you have to have a bandsaw and you have to have a file and you have to sand them and you have to drill them and it's just a whole thing. So I don't get lots of these each year because that would require David spending a lot of time doing stuff for me when he's busy enough with his job and then tanning stuff on the side. So I don't bug him very much for these things. I used to have a Navajo mixed friend named Curtis that used to do a lot of the bone work for me, and he retired. Of course, I'm kind of salty about that, but he was 92. He deserved to retire. But I really miss his craftsmanship because I cannot find someone to replace him when it comes to making bone beads for any of the native stuff now. I can't. It's so hard to find people that spent time with elders and learned how to do things anymore. It's just so difficult. And I think they just had the massive powwow down toward Mount Juliet, Tennessee. So this is the time of year where a lot of tribes come together and do the big get-togethers, big powwows, the big dancing competitions. They kind of go all summer and then they culminate into like specific tribal get-togethers around this time of year. So it's always an interesting time of year to, and a lot of tribes have social media, so you can actually go on and follow. Lots of times they will air their dancing competitions. And I like to go watch and see the little kids taking up the dancing. That's always super cute to watch. So I know the Cherokee Nation's got a really great social media presence. The Eastern Band specifically. That's my cord hitting that. The Eastern Band specifically because, they're a standalone agency in the United States. If y'all don't know that. I'm not Eastern Band. I am Lenape, which is a derivative of the Delaware tribe, which is a derivative of Cherokee. It's just not Eastern Band. My dad is Irish, so I look like I'm one potato famine away from death at all times. But my mother has a beautiful complexion. My brother got her genetics. I did not. I was like the only kid at most places I went to have freckles, but that's okay. Nobody ever treated me any differently. So we got Sally in here and Henry. It's Henry, right? It's Henry. I remember that. They threw us back on the algorithm the other day, and Lord have mercy, the jackals that live in the algorithm. Oh my goodness, the people that you run across in the algorithm are just horrendous. I mean, don't get me wrong, I worked in a hard-nosed environment for a long time. I still think most of the people I run across on social media are they're more contrary than the felons I supervised. I really didn't have a big issue with the people I supervised. You had to have a good rapport with them so that you could help them, because the whole thing was to help them stay out of prison and become productive members of society. That was your goal, although the state would probably, in back rooms, say, send them to prison so we can make money. That irritated the crap out of me. But I might have got threatened a few times. Most of the time they were not in a good mental state, so I didn't take it very serious. But I also grew up hunting like 400 and 500 pound hogs. So the scary factor was not there for most of the people I supervised. Because until I got really sick with this disorder on the weekends, I was literally hog hunting. My brother had a hunt lodge. Like, you'd go in and we'd have to like do USDA injections because they had to stay legal. So if you had a hog for more than like a year or 18 months, it had to have another round of injections. So we'd have to catch them. We'd have to get the dogs to band them up. We'd have to go in and grab their back end, their back legs, flip them. You got to put a knee or a foot up under their front leg so they can't come back and cut you. And while somebody else does the injections and does a quick health check and everything, and then you very carefully release them and get in a tree. I miss those days. It really was fun. I look back on the things I did as a kid and a young person, and I'm like, probably needed better supervision at times in my childhood. But I learned a lot of lessons. Knew how to drive a lot of farm machinery. Knew how to get along with a lot of animals. I think it made me better to deal with as a person. At least I believe it did. Here's a little one. Okay. Now this is a tiny one, and I have some fur I'm going to be cutting into droplets to put on here. And I have some other stuff that I'm going to be putting on here. So I'm sitting here just making stuff. Don't really know exactly what all I'm going to be putting on it. And I do know that I want it, I think I want it this way. Maybe this way, I don't know. But I left a center string in case I wanted to put some dangles around the opening. And I think I'm going to put some fur up here just to hide the hanging mechanism. But I'm going to do some leather droplets and fringe and do spiral some bobcat fur, long strips of bobcat fur to have bobcat fur dangles. Sally's up the apple orchard listening. Well, she can use my voice to scare off all the crows. It probably work. I have bought a microphone. I just haven't got all the pieces of it charged to use it yet. So I bought a microphone that I can clip on that may help a little bit when listening to me. Okay, let's see what we want to do. Let's do some leather fringe, because I do know I want leather fringe. I'm trying not to make it too girly. In the people that buy them now at the festivals and stuff where David goes, they seem to be really angling toward the girly side of things, which is honestly kind of irritating, because I prefer to make the ones that are more authentic and bones and, you know. But people seem to be more, I don't know, focused on decor. Most of my decor is taxidermy, so I don't know. But that's how I'm making sense of it in my head. But okay, then we have a bunch of leather dangles. And some of these I want to have nothing on them, because I just want the movement. The sun setting and my window prisms are casting rainbows across the kitchen. It's very pretty. So some of these I want to have nothing on them. And then others, I will probably go back and add some antlers, some beads, maybe some other bones. I don't know. I'm going to try not to weigh it down too much, because one thing I like with people that I know request these, I like to leave them a little open so that they can also add things to them. And that just, for me, it just kind of think it kind of helps make it your own. And I will be doing a weaving exhibition at the end of the month at a heritage festival. So I've got more willow drying. That's going to be fun. I'm going to have to, this is what's irritating, is I'm going to have to take that stupid rolly cart that I use because I do really well, but I don't know how long my muscles will do all of that while I'm standing. So I'm going to have to take my rolly cart so I can sit, or at least a really good chair so I can sit and weave if I need to. But that's just part of this stupid disorder, so that's okay. Well, that'll be okay. And the funny thing is it's the festival is at a school that has like an Appalachia farm-based program, and it's right across from one of the justice centers that I used to be the institutional parole officer at the jail at. So I kind of get to see everybody when I attend this, so that's nice. But the school has a program, and they like to have people come because a lot of the high schoolers actually help put this on, and so they don't want to pay a lot for people to come and do these things, you know, because it's the schools put this on a budget. So anytime they ask, I'm absolutely more than happy to go and do this. And last year I was scheduled to do it as well, but Helene came through and the rain would not stop, and they had to cancel it. And of course, if you remember last year how sick I got when Helene came through and I had that bad fall, it's probably a good thing they canceled it because I would not have been able to have done anything. Honestly, I don't think I had healed after that fall from Helene. I was so swollen and so sick after that weather system that my body just stopped. It's frustrating. It was very frustrating. So this is where I'm at right now. I've got 5 dangles on right now. And I'm just doing leather dangles right now for movement. I will add in the fur and the feathers later. And lots of times I spend weeks on these. Like this one has been in the process for over a week now, probably close to 2. And it's because I have to go harvest the willow, dry the willow, make the frame, let that dry, and then I have to weave it and let that sit for a little while because it will change the shape a little bit. They really don't show their true shape until you get them woven. And so it's just a long process sometimes to get these done, but I don't mind it. Well, I mind the feather drops. I'll make peace with the feather drops at some point in my life, but man, they irritate me sometimes. Normally when my hands are not working correctly. But when I can do this for someone that has put so much effort into themselves and completely changed their entire way of life and way of handling things, yeah, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be happy the entire time I'm doing it because that's what makes me happy is seeing people succeed, especially when others thought they would not. I got the biggest grins and smiles and happiness out of watching offenders succeed, especially when everyone else was banking on their demise. And I would be grinning like the Cheshire Cat because everybody was capable of making the changes. Just very few ever did. But it was so nice to see one when they did. It really took people by surprise and kind of upset the system. It made me happy. Made me real happy. So it's always nice to see people be successful and value themselves and put in effort and work. It's always that always brings me joy. I think in the middle I'm going to do another small dangle, antler dangle. Since this is going to have bone and skull on it, I don't want to overload it too much. but I do want to put a few things on it. And since I'm going to thread it onto this string that's right here, I have to do it backwards, which is going to take a lot of my brain capacity at the moment. I'm not going to lie. So Boomathon has been kind of Sabrina's safe place lately, and Boomathon has a YouTube channel as well. It's D as in ABCD, D Mind of Boomathon, Boomasan, and he's become Sabrina's kind of safe place because boy, some of the interest she gets on the internet is just vile and vicious. And he is doing an excellent job of hosting these interviews and kind of doing a meet in the middle for people that are wanting to learn about some of this technical heebie-jeebie crap. That's a technical term. Heebie-jeebie crap. And he's doing a really good job. I've never met Boomathon, but I do like his personality. I do like the way that he interacts with Sabrina. And he seems to have a very relevant background himself. Hang on, I hear Luna moving. Okay, had to make sure she wasn't having a seizure, sorry. My dog is epileptic, in case you're wondering. So I really do appreciate him for, kind of creating this little safe place, because I'm not kind of the last bastion that's fully on YouTube trying to send people her way. And y'all know sometimes the people that, especially when they throw me back in an algorithm, the people that we run across, they laws have mercy. I supervise murders, and I think the murderers might have a better personality than some of the people I see that come on social media. I'm just saying, just being honest. I had a reformed murderer one time. He's probably, this is going to blow some of y'all's minds, probably one of the best men I've ever met. He's passed away now. And I still had to do visits on him when he was in hospice care at home. And the last time that I saw him was about 4 days before he passed. And he was an interstate compact case, and I had begged the other state to let him off paper before he passed. He was no longer, he had been on supervision for like 20 plus years. He was no longer a threat, and was on his way out. And I wanted him to die off paper, because he had done so much in his life to reform. He did not actually pull the trigger, but he was with a group of boys that decided when he was like 16, they all wanted to get together, and the other boys didn't tell half the other boys what they were planning, and they were planning on robbing a gas station. It went south, and they ended up firing on one of the boys ended up having a gun and firing on the attendant, and the man died, and every one of them went to prison. So young people that may run across this, watch your P's and Q's and who you spend your time and energy with, because it will screw you over. But he had worked his whole life to come back from that. And just a phenomenal person. I know that you probably are watching this going, what? A murderer was a phenomenal person? Yes, the man that he had become through the help of finding the Lord. He was a phenomenal person. And just an excellent man. And so I saw him about 4 days before he passed away. He was completely bedbound by the end. And I just made it more visits than anything. Just to bring a little bit of joy to his days, and to not make it feel so business official, because he was in a hospital bed and couldn't move. Like, he was not going to go out and breach his parole. So I just tried to visit, check on him, check on his wife. She was struggling. And the last time I saw him, I think he knew it was getting close. And he was kind of dozing, and I was sitting there filling out some paperwork and just kind of letting him doze in and out. And I was just taking a small break myself, sitting there doing a home visit, filling out my paperwork. And he woke up and he said, hey. And I said, oh, hey, yourself. I said, how are you feeling today? And he said, oh, not that bad. And I said, well, I'm glad you're not feeling that bad today. I said, your color's better. And he looked at me and he goes, he kind of went kind of blank in his eyes, and he said, have I done enough, sis? And I said, have you done enough what? And he had a tray in front of him with his water. I said, have you drank enough today? I said, I don't know. Let me ask your wife. And he goes, no, have I done enough? And I said, done enough what? Because I was obviously not focused. And he said, done enough to make up for what happened. And I said, well, I think he passed that about, 10 years ago. And he had done so much for the community, the church, for the youth in the area, speaking about the mistakes he made in life. And 4 days later, I would come in to work, and around 10 a.m., I'd have the first of my reporting parolees that day, and about 10 a.m., I got a call, and it was his wife saying that he had passed. Now, listen, I may be a hard-nosed booger half the time, but I had to close my office down and cry, because it was hard when you see one of them that has truly changed their life, and then you lose him, after he's had 4 runs of cancer, and then you lose him. It's hard. It's hard because he was such an example to the others, and he helped a lot of the younger guys I had on my caseload. It was hard to lose him. He was probably in the stuff that he had done after he got out of prison, one of the finest men I'd ever met. Hey, Gypsy. So I've got the middle antler dangle on this one. I've got some leather fringe, and I've got the middle feather dangle. I hate feather dangle. I like them. I just hate making them. I think what I'm going to do now is work on cutting the fur and getting the tendrils the way I want them, and seeing what exactly bone-wise I may want to put on here with the skull. Because y'all know me, I have to kind of look at it for a while. I have a little bag of goodies down here that I have bones and stuff in that have been sanitized. And I just, with the shape of the skull that's going on here, I don't want to put too much on here because it is a smaller one. But I also, I don't know, I think a few big canines or something would be kind of neat, don't y'all? I think that would be kind of neat. Executive decision. I do have a lot of jawbones too. But that skull is going to be so big, I don't really want to overwhelm this small frame. So probably we'll just put a couple of canines somewhere. And I may wait and put them on parts of the fur that I use to mask the hanging mechanism up here when I put it on. So after we get some 2 fur tendrils on either side, we get the skull, and then maybe some fur to hide the hanging mechanism up here. I think that will, kind of be what I start with, and then I'm going to hang it up and have to look at it for a while because it just kind of has to talk to me for a few days to see if it needs something else. And I just have to hang them up and look at them and make my decision after that. I do like the way this one is starting, though, and I like the natural look of it. These are my favorite ones to make. I like that I used different pieces of willow to do a multiple frame on it. It's kind of hard to do those, especially this time of year, but it worked out pretty good. It's just I had to make it small so it can be shipped because it's astronomical to ship my big ones. But it is going to be a pretty one. I do like the feather dangle with the antlers and the column beads. And I do like that big antler tendril right there. I like that. That tip right there is nice. So I think now I'm just going to have to go outside and look at the fur and cut the fur and look at it and let it talk to me for a few days and see what else I want to put on it. I want to do this guy justice, but I want to put good energy into this and a lot of effort because I want it to reflect the effort he's put into himself. And I want him to know that I respect the effort he's put into himself and I respect it enough to put my energy into this for him. But I also want it to be something that he displays and it keeps him It's a physical awareness. It's a reminder when he sees it that someone cares, that someone is also celebrating his successes, and it's just a good physical reminder of stay on that path and continue doing good. Oh no, canine just means the eye teeth. Canine just means an eye tooth. That's probably from a small coyote. I do have some raccoon, fox, and bobcat teeth in there as well, though. But for a little bit of drama, I do like to use the big eye teeth, the canines from a larger animal. The bobcat canines, the eye teeth are remarkably very fragile. The bone in them's it's so hollow, which probably gives it strength when they're alive, but when they dry out, it makes them very fragile. So they don't always work well for me unless I pack them with resin and do stuff like that. So I tend to put coyote. I'll even use raccoon canines. And possums have actually really large teeth too. So I've missed y'all, Margaret. I have just been so sick. Everybody's been so sick. Like everybody's sick right now. Even my grandbabies are sick, and they live 2 states away. It's everybody's sick right now, and David rarely ever gets sick. We almost never get sick at the same time, which is just unheard of. And we all had a sick spell. I kept going in and out of flare coming out of my sickness, and then the cluster migraines, and y'all see the rings under my eyes. I have on no makeup. I don't care, but I'm starting to feel better. I just don't have all of my energy back yet. I always horrible. Everyone is sick. Like I have friends worldwide, and I have friends over near Poland, and they're sick. And it's just like, good Lord, is the wind blowing that hard across the globe? I don't know. A lot of it, I think, is we're sick because our energy is just want right now. When you're facing so much socially and mentally because of social unrest, it just kind of zaps you. And a lot of people, they don't really assess themselves before they really get sick. I felt it coming because I have been in a precarious state of flare for a few months. But I certainly did not see David getting sick. And that's when I kind of, hit the ruts too, because then I worry when he gets sick, which makes me worse. So that's when I kind of fell the second time. But I'm perking up now. My dark circles will go away at some point, or I'll put concealer on at some point. I don't really care. But it's been rough around here. And I mean, even the young kids, they rarely ever get sick. I mean, they're snotty nose all the time, but they really rarely get sick. They're sick right now. And, I'm just to the point of like, what are y'all spraying on us now? Because I know what China was in a lockdown not too long ago. And I'm just like, listen, line all the scientists up that work in laboratories, and I will kick their hind ends. I volunteer as tribute. Because I'm getting tired of this. Just getting tired of this. If we need to mama hen him and tongue lash him a little bit, I do it because I'm getting really sick, of this stuff. And of course my husband already deals with Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which you all know, the basis and the timeline of that, Bill Gates. And it's just like, I'm tired of being the ant farm that they shake every few months. Does that make sense? I'm just, it's just like, hello, I'm tired. Stop it. It's not fun anymore. I have to put up with so much crap on a daily that when you add extra crap onto my shovel that's already full of crap, I'm fixing to start throwing crap back. So that's where I've been the last 4 or 5 months. And it seems like when I get into the studying of the books and bringing a lot of information, I fight more sickness than normal. And it's not going to deter me. It just slows me down. So, I am, I'm in 4 low and just chugging along. It's not going to stop me. It just slows me down. So we'll get back in 4 high. I'll catch second. A red velvet ant? I don't know, probably. I've stepped in about every kind of goddamn anthill there is around here. When you have on snake chaps and you're barreling through the woods, you kind of get this, I cannot be hurt mentality, and you don't always look at where you put your feet. And I was notorious to find every nest of anything on the ground. Luckily, I did avoid a lot of hornets and yellow jackets, but when I used to ginseng hot and heavy, I'm not going to tell you how many times I've had to run to the creek and splash water everywhere to deter stuff. It's been a few. I was rather rambunctious in my prime. They call them cattle killers. Oh my gosh. We may not have them around here then. We got some biggins though. We got some biggins. We got them little fire ants that will light you up. Oh yeah, now I've heard about those. I didn't know that's what they were called. I don't think we have them around here, but I have heard about those. Oh my gosh, they found a huge timber rattler and took a video of it the other day. People that were trail riding down a Big South Fork somewhere. It was going across the very well maintained. They have horse paths that they actually mow. That's how cushy they are. This timber rattler, you couldn't see its tail and you couldn't see its head, but you could see its body, and it was big, round, at least as my arm. At least. And all the horses were just stopped like, sir, he owns the path. And people were taking video because they had never seen one that big. I have seen a man stand on a tailgate. He had bush hogged and hit one. I saw him stand on a tailgate, hold its rattle up, and its head was still on the ground. Well, what was left of it. It kind of got chopped up in the bush hog. And when I lived out of Middle Tennessee, the neighboring farm was blasting to put a basement in a new house they were building. And we were all kind enough to warn if we were doing anything like that, because there were so many rattlesnakes down there. It's just, I'd never seen so many rattlesnakes in my whole time. We have them up here, but copperheads are the big thing up here. And they, as a nicety, told everybody they were going to be blasting. And I could stand at my front door when they were blasting and watch snakes just bubble up and start crawling away from the blast zone. No. I had, when I was like eight months pregnant with my son, I was trying to put laundry out on the line, and I had a we call them king racers. They have different names for them, but it was during the beginning of the dog days of summer, and so his eyes were filmed over where he's fixing to shed. And he locked onto me, and they'll lock onto heat and chase heat, especially in the dog days. I was just trying to put my flipping laundry out, and I was like 8 months pregnant. I made a lap around the house, and he was like following me, and I was like, ugh, and I put a few more pieces of laundry out, and then here he comes. So I made another lap around the house. I put a few more. It took me like 4 laps around the house, and then I was like, okay, I'm done with you. Because when I started to go up the stairs, which I had like 11 stairs up, he was still adamant that he was coming with me, and I was like, okay, no. You get to fertilize the cattle field. Because he was just too insistent. I didn't mind him being my buddy, just, making the laundry day a little bit longer. But when he started to come in the house, I was like, no. No. Burn the barn down. I'm here to tell you. Well, y'all know Ernie. Ernie is still kicking, our resident black snake. I didn't know if it was or not, but earlier this year, me and Mom came out of the road, and Ernie was crawling across the road. And I actually rolled the window down and said, Ernie, get out of the road. Ernie is now a little longer than 5 foot, I would say. He lives in the barn. Sometimes he gets into David's fur shed. If he gets in David's fur shed, David will whop him on the head with something and shoo him out. I don't mind having Ernie around because it kind of keeps the copperheads and everything else away. And, he eats stuff that I don't want around here, But he got a little sassy the other year with David. And David whopped him. Like, he was hanging from the rafters, and David said, get out of here, Ernie. And he, hung down and hissed and, struck. And black snakes, if they bite you, they're just cantankerous. They'll kind of shred you a little bit. And so David got a stick or something he had standing by the door, and he just whumped him on the head, and he said, I might have killed him. He said, but I know I give him a headache. We didn't see him for a long time, and I thought, oh, you killed him. You killed Ernie. You killed him a snake. But he was crawling over the road when me and Mom were heading out one day, and so he's still kicking. Every time I do photographs in the barn lot of anybody, he would show up and stick his head up out of the grass and get in a picture. And that's how he got named. And he's been here since he was tiny, since he was sunbathing on a piece of firewood that was bigger than him. So he's been here for a long time. Hello. They like to leave their skins in funny places. Ernie normally, we've got a cabinet over in the hay part of the barn, and he would normally get in there and get behind something and rub his skin off, and he'll leave it in there. So we find it almost every year, and that's kind of how we gauge how big he's getting. But, last year he got a little bit too big for his britches and thought he'd move it on David's turf, and that didn't work out too well for him. So he's, and then I thought, well, he's gone or got his noggin crushed, I don't know. But he showed back up, so he's kicking. But now he has rules, and Ernie knows that. That's a big one, yeah. I mean, once they get past 5 foot, that's a pretty big black snake. My brother is when they wrote about him in a lot of the hunt magazines, they would refer to him as a stump of a man. And you just got to know my brother. I had a guy from New Jersey that was hog hunting once, completely just failed to remember he had a gun in his hand and to shoot the charging wild Russian boar. And Matthew was yelling at him, shoot that thing, shoot that thing. And finally Matthew said, give me the gun and get up the tree, because he didn't want to get the guy hurt. And that hog come running, and Matthew was still screaming at the guy, shoot that thing. My brother, who was so mad at the hunter that had just completely forgot his wherewithal, when that hog got close enough, my brother just kind of saddle walked, kicked the leg up, and kicked him in the nose and the head and deterred him. He kind of shook his nose and run off, making a tank path in the woods. And I was up a tree about 15 foot back. And my brother said, I told you to shoot that thing. You're putting everybody at risk, because we did, these hunts were planned out, and you were tested, trained. You went and shot your gun before. You proved that you had the wherewithal to be in the woods and hunt this animal because they were deadly. And he just froze. But my brother changed that hog's mind with one kick to the head, and I thought, that's hilarious. But I was fishing with my brother one time, and I remember he had a Swisher Sweet cigar in his mouth. And I couldn't understand a flipping thing he was telling me. He was on the dock by the well house, and he was grumbling something as I was walking down with my fishing pole too. And I didn't know what he was grumbling until I got right up on the flipping black snake that was between me, my brother, and the dock. And it did not want to go back in the well house. If it had turned and went back in the well house, I'd been fine. So I'm stopping. This thing's locked onto me, and I'm like, well, crap, And Matthew's laughing with his Swisher Sweeter in his mouth. And I said, this darn thing. Well, then it starts lunging at me, because once black snakes get big enough, they get little mean and grumpy. And this one had probably been there for God knows how long. And at that time, we had a lot of new grandkids that also liked to fish the pond. So we were a little concerned about his behavior. And I was like, I don't know how much longer we can overlook this guy's behavior, Matt. And my brother said, oh, Victor, hang on. And he finally took the cigar and tipped it so the ashes fell, put it back in his mouth, laid down his fishing pole, walked straight toward that snake. He said, get its attention. Famous last words from my brother. I got a lot of things attention I probably should never have gotten him off. But here I go, irritating the snake. He grabs his tail, swings it up, and he's got this black snake going like I would a rope, fixing to rope a goat or a cow. And he goes, watch this. And he cracks it, and you hear a pop. That snake never moved again. It broke its spine or neck or whatever. It never moved again. Now, every snake I have ever seen die, run over, bush hog, they continue to wiggle for a little while. This one never moved ever again. And I'm just standing there, after he cracks it, he throws it back down the ground, and he goes back over and picks up his fishing pole and then tips his cigar, puts it back in the mouth, and I'm just sitting there going, I guess that's just all in a day for him. And never seen anybody else do that. He said he saw it done one time, and he said didn't really know if it'd work. And I thought, you just grabbed hold of that giant black snake and nothing worked. But me and my brother also went and chased like 400 to 600 pound wild Russian boar through the woods. So probably not the smartest people on the planet. But that cracked me up. That snake never moved. Never moved again. We went on and fished, and I kept looking back, expecting it to. It never moved. It never moved. And we was on the way back up, and he grabbed it, and I was like, don't you throw that at me, because he had a bad habit of throwing snakes and stuff at me. I was like, don't you throw that at me. He goes, I'm going to throw it into the big roosters and let them feel tough. Threw it in the chicken lot so the chickens would feel tough and think they killed a snake. And I thought, every time they wrote an article about my brother, I was like, yeah, it's probably accurate. And they would always call him something weird. I was like, yeah, it's probably accurate. My brother's weird. He's strange. I mean, taxidermist, hunting lodge, meat processing, more of a sense of humor. I have it too, but not as bad as him. But never seen anybody else do that to a snake. I've heard of people and had other people tell me they've seen it done, but that was the first time I had actually witnessed anything like that. And that snake never moved. Never moved again. Never moved again. But he did. He threw it into the big roosters to let them feel tough. So, they thought they did something good that day. And chickens will eat anything. I'm just here to tell you. Matter of fact, if you've ever ate a chicken, you probably ate 3 or 4, because they will eat anything. I just don't mean to ruin your dinner. Just tell you the truth. Gypsy honey, you rest. I'm fixing to have to rest too. I just wanted to get started on this because I need to get the fur drops done. Momentum is like not my vocabulary lately, but I do like the way this has turned out. Normally somebody asks you to join them in doing something, they've got a reason for wanting you there. I just wanted to get in. The bass were hitting over in the lily pads really hard that evening. I just wanted to see if me and him could catch a big bass out of the pond. And I didn't think I was going to run into a snake wrangling episode, but there I was. Oh, Gypsy, also before you go to sleep, I just had another friend went in the hospital 2 days ago. Guess what? For a stent. Kidney stones. It's an epidemic, apparently. Like, everybody's sick right now. Everybody's having surgeries right now. Everybody's got this creepy crud right now. It's just been really strange. It's been really strange. But I heard that and I was like, huh. Well. My eyes are better. I can make out most of the comments today. My eyes have been really messed up. Yeah, it is. I think it's crazy too. I was just kind of like, oh, I'm going to remember that. So keep me in the loop. I just thought, it's just like an epidemic. It's just really strange. Just really strange. Very strange. You saw it on a Gunsmoke episode. Now I'm going to have to go watch all the Gunsmoke episodes. I've been going through Little House on the Prairie while I've been sick and while I've been crocheting. I didn't realize how many episodes there were of that show. And then you got to think about how much those kids must have worked, because I'm in season 2 or season 3 and Carrie has not aged a bit. So you're like, wow, how much did these kids work when they were little? Because they made those juvenile work laws fairly early, I thought. But Carrie hasn't aged a bit. She still has no really speaking lines. So I'm sitting there going, wow, these kids work their honeys off. Now, the Rifleman, I love the Rifleman. And if it's ever on, I will stop and watch it. But I'd never seen that. Matthew had seen it done, God knows where. Of course, the the circles he ran in with, hunting and stuff like that. He was called Hog God for most of my life. I was never, I never had a name. I was just Hog God's sister. And if I ever went anywhere with him, I was just free help because they knew that I knew how to do whatever needed to be done. So they'd be like, go get Hog God's sister. And I would get put on a task. If I ever went anywhere with him, I ended up doing fleshing or caping something out, or I ended up working. But nobody really ever knew his name. Like, they'd be on the internet going, hey, does anybody know how to reach that Hog God guy? And I'd be like, that's my brother. But he didn't have a name for a decade and a half. He was just known as Hog God. These kids must have worked their butt off, because I'm just like, wow, this is a lot of work, and nobody's aged. I know it must have slowed down later, but right now I'm just like, wow, this was a lot of work. So, the things you notice when you're like sick in bed and focused on things because you can't do anything else. That's what I thought about that witch hat lantern I made, and wondered about the minor work laws and ethics of the studios back in the day. And it's just, you never know what I'm going to get a tangent on when I'm sick. You never know. Yeah. I go down some rabbit holes I probably shouldn't go down. I've got a book in PDF form right now that I'm almost scared to open and read. But I know I need to, but it's kind of scary to open it and read it. But in the forward momentum of gaining knowledge, I probably will crack it open. I've already made the decision. It's just I'm still stifled a little bit when I actively think about sitting down and starting it. But it is a book that is cherished among a certain alternate religious sect in the world. Put my coat hanger thing. And I need to read it to understand some behavior. This is how my psychology brain works. I need to read it to understand the basis of some behaviors. But I know I'm going to learn way more than I bargained for in doing so. But I also know that without reading it, I will not be able to create any understanding of the behaviors I'm seeing, and I won't be able to identify them more quickly. So I need to have the information. And then I go, is the information possibly worth what it may cost me emotionally? Because it's going to be difficult to read. But I think it will be, especially with the occurrences of last week. So, I've got a lot of files in my head that I didn't ask to be there. And I've had to look at a lot of horrendous, horrible things in my life because of my jobs. And so it's kind of already a tar pit up there anyway. So I'm like, if anybody cracks this open, it probably needs to be me. So, in my head, I'm like, I'm going to take one for the team. But it's just very difficult to come to terms with opening this book. And I'm not even going to say the name of it here. Sabrina knows what I'm fixing to read, but I'm not going to say the name of it here. Hamboat, yeah. Yeah, a lot of the butchers around here were called various things like that. Matthew was like the most prolific hog god in like Eastern Tennessee at the time, so they just all called him Hog God. So I was Hog God's sister. I didn't have a name. I was just the shadow that did all the work. So that's how I grew up. So I was either following Dad and helping Dad in the barns, and a shadow to Dad, or I was sitting silently with Mom in lecture classes when she was in college, and I was a shadow there, or I was behind Matthew as he, did all this work, and I was just stuck with him because there was nowhere else to put me. Or when I got older, he actually needed my help because I had learned so much in my youth just always being around him. So I was always a shadow. Nobody really ever knew my name. I was just always there. So odd. I didn't become like super loud until later in life. So I think now everybody that meets me knows who I am, but back then they were just like, oh, I wondered who that was with you. Yeah, it was the other family member, just me. That was my life for most of my childhood and young adult. I was very quiet, very, very silent. That changed. Something internally snapped at around 24, and I was just like, sit back, it's gonna come out. And I just let it. So I can't say I've always had an edit or delete button, but I did have a mute button for much of my life. Took that one off the table. It does not exist anymore. But I mean, it's served me well most of the time. Did I see the movie with Catherine Bates being murdered? No, you'll have to give me a name of the movie. I also, when I worked in corrections, I would really not watch any like murder mystery or true crime because I didn't want to read about more things that could happen because I saw enough happen. So I would completely like log off from that whole existence when I was home because home was my place to defrag mentally and create a little bubble where I was happy. And so we didn't watch true crime. We didn't watch murder mystery. We didn't, I watched the news when I had to. That one night at 11 p.m. when one of my guys made TBI's top 10 and I had to go all the way back to work and do an emergency warrant. I about broke myself from watching the news. But memories. But when I was home, I was in a bubble. And even when the books I read then, I would read like sci-fi and stuff because I didn't want to read. I didn't need any more ideas of what people could do because I had a caseload of upwards 450 at times, and I just did not need any more anything else in here. I've never seen it. Now, see, I'd probably be willing to watch it now since I don't have to marinate and all that at work anymore. So, but I'm here to tell you, if you see somebody that is successful off of some level of supervision, tell them kudos because they don't make it to be successful. They make it to keep you subservient to the state, to your community, if it's on misdemeanor, to your county. They make it difficult to get off paper. So if you get off paper, you either flattened your sentence and come out and didn't get your nose dirty anymore, or you did a butt ton of work and you got off paper, with a lot of elbow grease because it's not meant to be successful. And I would warn everyone, and, especially when I had to sit next to juveniles that were coming up for issues. And because we had judges that only come around like every few weeks, so they would throw everything on the same day. So lots of times, if I was sitting in the courtroom, I would have a juvenile shackled to me while the officer filled out paperwork because I was the only one that was there early enough to be the anchor for the kid. But I would sit there and I'd be like, you need to stop this. Because the more you get your nose dirty, the easier you become a target. And once you owe somebody money, especially the state, they'll take it, financially or out of your hide. And they don't make it easy to get off paper. It's really a catch-22 because it is probably 5 times as expensive to get off paper as you would think because you've got to pay for the supervision, you've got to pay restitution, you've got to pay court fines. They've got it now to where it used to be if you flattened your sentence and you came out, you only had to pay restitution to victims, but now, and they would forgive the rest, but now they don't forgive anything. You have to pay it all. And so people, and they're trying to go back and make people, even though that was only brought in a few years ago, they're trying to, people that should be grandfathered in to have it all dismissed that are coming out of prison now that went to prison under the old law that should have been grandfathered said, okay, they still get to just pay restitution, the rest is forgiven. The states are trying to go, okay, well, if they don't know, we just won't tell them. So I've had so many people call me and be like, why are they saying I owe this? Why? And I'm like, you don't. You just have to remind them that you were sentenced before the law changed, and therefore you are, under this law, they cannot, that you're basically grandfathered in. They have to let you do it this way. If they give you a problem, let me know. And I would have to call clerks and be like, hey, it's not legal. And I don't work anymore. I'm just kind enough to do these things. And they would go back and correct it. But I would tell everybody else, it's not meant to get off paper. It's expensive. And once they got their talons in you, they ain't gonna want to let go. You think you're the one, being a little stinker, but I guarantee you that the state's a bigger stinker than you. And I would try to warn them. I would try. Sometimes it stuck, sometimes it didn't. I may look that up and read it or watch it though. Really? I definitely will look that up. Now, I think I have seen the Jack Nicholson one. That does ring a bell. That does ring a bell. There's some really good movies out there, and a lot of them based on true stories, that kind of, if I could tell you all to read any or watch any movie, this one really irritates me. I would say watch the movie Marie with Sissy Spacek, because it's based on the basically the commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Corrections, who was convicted of selling clemencies. Y'all know the issue. I have that when I worked there. And when this was made back in the early 80s, I think, around there. And then when I worked there, the man was still in that position. Make it make sense. Now, how are you supposed to be in a position telling people, I am the beacon, of honesty for these people coming out to create a new path, but just don't look at the last 20 years of my life. That just made me feel bad. And I had to go to a training once where he was speaking, and he came off the auditorium stage, and doggone it if he didn't walk up the aisle. And the one person he chose to pat on the shoulder was me, and I felt icky. Did not care for the man. Didn't want to be. I get the cold chills still. I just did not get a good vibe from him. And that irritated the crap out of me. And I didn't know about it because they didn't tell you in your training. I was actually told about that by one of the offenders I supervised, and I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, he gave me some information. And I went home and did my research that weekend, and I came back to work Monday going, I looked at people differently, especially the people that were butt sniffing and butt kissing. It just blew my mind. Yeah, it blew my mind. I get a strong reaction as you. I just, it doesn't make sense. Much of the world does not. I don't think I'll ever rectify that occurs, but it just doesn't. I'll let you know. I'm going to try to look it up and see if it's a prom thing, if I can watch it. But there are a lot of good movies. I can't, of course, now come off I can't remember any right now, but there are a lot of good movies out there. But if I could tell you to really watch one that will really blow your mind, it would be Marie with Sissy Spacek. That Trauber guy, he was still in when I was working there, and it just, y'all, like, I just felt sick when he touched me coming off that auditorium stage that day at that training, because we had to go to Knoxville. They put us on this big auditorium, and he was up there making a big speech in this big 3-piece suit, and I was just kind of over it because I had work that needed to be done, and I was accomplishing nothing being there. And he come off that stage and was walking up the aisle and just patted me on the shoulder, and I know I moved like this, like I know I did. I couldn't help it. Couldn't help it. And that's probably one of the most icky days I was at work. So I had a lot of catch-22s working there. A lot of do as you're told, not as you see others do. But if you're going to do it that way, hide behind everybody else is doing it. And I was just like, y'all are worse than criminals. I really had, I was like, y'all are worse than criminals. So I, not a love loss for me at all to not be in that job anymore. I really just went into a job thinking you're going to help people, and it's like when I went to psychology, thought you were really going to help people, and all you learn is that the thing you're learning about, they've already learned how to manipulate it to harm people or to herd people, manipulate people. And so any avenue that there is a good outcome, it's like they've already run ahead and screwed it up. And if you do stand out like a lot, then they can't wait to just diffuse you to where you have no light within you at all. And it was just a rough job. And the criminals were not the rough part. Not at all. Most of them, when they succeed and they tell me about their successes, they still bring me joy today. I can't say that I have had any other coworker or previous manager, authority figure at all, that has made me smile since I left work. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to end on that because that's a doozy. I may have to go and compost that myself. Makes you wonder whose heart's truly on a better path, and who's really creating the laws and setting the standards. I'm going to have to stop, or I'm going to have another research project going on before I can get any rest. And I still need to rest a little bit. But I'm getting better. My eyes are starting to fuzz, but I have been able to read a lot of the comments today, so that's good. Got a little bit accomplished. I have unplugged my glue gun, so we're all good there. And I'm going to get some rest. But thank you for chit-chatting and chewing the fat and let me gab while I started this. This is very important to me. It may be such a little to some of y'all, but something that I do that I take so seriously for somebody to ask me for and really appreciate and desire, and to be able to help celebrate a new chapter in their life. Heck yeah, I'm there, and I'm going to do it justice. So I'm going to add some really high-dollar fur, and then I'm going to look at it and see what else needs to go there, because I want him to know I'm putting effort into this because you put effort into yourself. And so I want it to reflect that. And I hope that when he looks at it, he remembers that somebody does care, somebody is really, really happy for him and his successes, and he will continue forward on that path. And I think he has the ability to do so. And I think he's made his mind up to do so this time. And that makes me very happy. I don't think he'll disappoint me again. And moreover, I don't think he'll disappoint himself again. That's the big thing is what are you doing to yourself? And I think he's over going down this road. I think he's set on this new path, and that makes me super excited for him. So I'm watching him accomplish a lot of firsts, and it's fun. And I appreciate that he has shared this with me. So I wanted to share it with y'all. Y'all have a great day. Thank you, Morgan. Y'all have a great day. Remember to keep Gypsy and her daughter in your prayers. Ashley has got a lot going on right now. We've got a lot of people. I've got a friend that's actually needing surgery in the hospital right now. She could use some prayers. We've got a lot of stuff going on. I've got family members that are currently on the road on some pretty long traveling trips right now. We need to toss some prayers up, keep them safe. And just remember each other, because we got a lot of crap going on in the world right now. And we all need a base to feel safe and have a little community where we know we're cherished and we're thought of. And that's kind of what this little tiny spot on the internet is. True, when the trolls show up, it gets a little hairy. But for the most part, it's a safe spot. The last week, I think it's even more important to have these faces, especially on social media, to kind of show that the kindness and communal vibes and caring, they're not going to be snuffed out. And the internet is not solely owned by black-hearted individuals. So it's important, sometimes just stand and take up space and nobody else can take it up. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm taking up space. So thank you for helping me take up space in a positive way. And I'll be back as soon as I can to do some more. And I definitely will show you when I get this done. I'll show you the finished product. I'll at least do a community post. But I wanted to share absolutely how excited and proud I was to be able to do something for somebody who has done so much for himself. It makes me happy. I'm all about success. I'm a champion for the underdog. Thank you, Margaret. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you, if not tomorrow, I'll see you at least Monday. But I'm doing a lot better, and I appreciate you thinking of me. Bye, guys. I'm going to go check on Luna because she's fidgeting in her sleep. It scares me.